What is up, everybody? This is JP representing jpfitnesspro.com. Today's video was kind of brought on by something that I seen in the gym, and I'm not saying that the person was doing something wrong. It just made me think that there are people who probably do this. But today's video is about stability and what less stable and more stable does to the goals that you want. The first question that you have to ask yourself is, what are your goals? And because this is what I kind of specialize in, and these are the goals most people are aiming for, if your goals are hypertrophy, which is gaining muscle, or strength, which is getting stronger, then stability plays a part in everything, but it heavily affects the two goals that I just mentioned. When something is less stable, and I'll give you an example, and this could be applied to any upper body movement or lower body movement, but we're going to be using lower body today. When something is less stable, like a single leg Bosu ball squat, most of you, including me, cannot even do a regular full single leg squat with nothing to hold on to. But just assuming that you can, or you're trying to do that, let's just say that on the far end of the spectrum of instability or less stable exercises is a single leg Bosu ball squat. If you don't know what a Bosu ball is, it's like half like a yoga ball. It's like half of one of those balls, like an exercise ball. But let's just say you're doing a single leg squat on that. Then on the other end of the spectrum, still talking about legs, very stable, one very linear path of movement when it comes to the resistance is a leg press machine, just getting on a leg press. Now, what does this do? If your goal is hypertrophy or strength, to some extent, and actually there's a certain threshold, but your goal is to overload that muscle to an extent. And by overload, I don't mean overload past what it can handle. I just mean there has to be a sufficient mechanical tension to some extent for you to be able to see results. Even if you're training with lightweight, you can see the same amounts of gains in muscle mass with light weights, but you still have to have some type of tension. Even if it's a very light tension, light weights you have to train to failure if you're going lighter. Moderately heavy and heavy weights you don't have to train to failure. But you still have to have some sort of tension. And most of the time, and I've said this before, using light weights to failure, especially if that's your primary mechanisms of seeking muscular hypertrophy, is probably not the most optimal way to see hypertrophy. Constantly having untrained to failure, for most people, isn't a very viable strategy. And then on top of that, again, you could just get burnt out training to failure all the time, because you really have to get, depending on how high reps you're going, you have to get really close to failure, or literally go to failure every single set to see optimal gains. But back to stability. So you have to have some form of tension. When you're doing something so unstable, like a single leg Bosu ball squat, you are now no longer applying sufficient tension to be able to overload that muscle group. You are now, your body's more focused on strictly just trying to balance. You don't want that. You don't want to, your goal is not, yet if your goals are hypertrophy, gaining muscle mass, or strength, your goals aren't to work on balance. You should be using exercises that have a certain threshold of stability that you are allowed to apply force in a somewhat linear manner. Think about like a bench press. A bench press, the bar, yes, when you get into very into detail, the bar is not moving straight up and down. It's moving in a J pattern. But for the sake of just simplicity, when you're doing a bench press, the bar is for the most part moving up and down. You know, you have enough stability laying on a bench with your feet planted, and you're driving the bar up and down. So again, that's enough stability that you are targeting a specific muscle group. Now, certain exercises have more stability or less stability than others, like a dumbbell chest press is going to be a little bit more unstable, and you're going to have to control it a little bit more than a bench press, which is why you can't do as much on that exercise. But again, what I'm trying to say, I guess the ultimate message of this video is to be careful with what exercises you pick, and try not to go too far towards the spectrum of instability. If your goal is hypertrophy or strength, and you're adding all these wacky exercises in where you're now focused more on balance, you're not properly overloading that muscle group. Even if we were to say double leg, like regular squat on a Bosu ball, that still isn't sufficiently overloading that muscle group to see adequate amounts of hypertrophy. Now, if your goals are something else, If your goals are something else, then that's different. If you're training for a sport and you're trying to increase balance, that's a completely different topic. But a lot of you guys who watch my content or watch videos on YouTube, your goals are to get jacked or get stronger. And adding too much instability to exercises, you know, doing, again, like I said, single leg Bosu ball, a squat or something like that, or doing, you know, for some people can do this, but some people can't do, like, for example, a single leg one-handed RDL. That's a little bit too unstable for you too, because you're falling over, you're focusing more on trying to stay from not falling than you are from overloading that muscle group. So, and another, I guess, kind of like misconception is that, oh, when you add more stability, it's harder to control and you gain more muscle mass. That's not true. Once you have a sufficient mechanical stressor, whether that be from mechanical tension or metabolic stress, which is high reps to failure or moderately heavy or heavy weights relatively close to failure, then you're going to make gains. And from there, you need to intelligently progress that volume of that stressor over time. So I guess, again, the message for this video is don't add too much instability. Yes, it's good to add a little bit sometimes, like, you know, a lot of channels are advocates of that. Going from a dumbbell press to a single arm dumbbell press is some added instability, but that's not too much. But again, going from a regular squat, like a back squat, to a single leg Bosu ball squat, that's probably not a good idea if your ultimate goals are hypertrophy or strength. If you guys have any questions or you're confused about the video, please post them down below. If you have any recommendations for future videos, please post those comments down below. I do try to check the comments. Share this video with a friend if you see him doing all this kind of wacky stuff. If you are, hopefully you don't go as unstable and you start going more towards the middle of the spectrum, or, you know, have a good mix in of some light instability exercises with some machines and stuff that is more stable, like a leg press, a bench press, pressing machines, you know. Again, you want to kind of mix it up a little bit just to get some good exercise variation. You know, you don't want, if I were to train someone, I wouldn't have them do all of one thing. But again, your goal is not to be adding all this instability stuff. But that's the end of the video, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.